What if the very things a business does to uh, convince you to buy their service are actually the exact things driving you away?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds totally counterintuitive when you first hear it.
Right. But imagine you're researching a major life decision. We're talking about something expensive, incredibly complex, and most importantly, something directly related to your health or your body.
Which is a highly vulnerable position to be in.
Exactly. You're sitting there at your computer staring at like a dozen open tabs.
Yeah.
And today, we're looking at why putting a giant Book Now button front and center on a website
Yeah.
might actually be the absolute fastest way to lose a patient.
We are so conditioned by e-commerce, right? We want that frictionless one-click checkout for everything.
Yeah.
When you are looking for a serious medical solution, your radar for bad actors is incredibly sensitive.
Oh, absolutely.
The digital footprint of that business is like the only thing you have to gauge their credibility. So if they push too hard, too fast, your defensive walls just go up immediately.
Okay, let's unpack this because our mission today is to really break down the actual architecture of digital trust.
It's a fascinating concept.
It really is. We are diving into a really comprehensive strategy, and this was engineered by an agency called Socially Buzz. They basically build out these trust ecosystems specifically for stem cell and regenerative medicine clinics.
And they are dealing with an incredibly skeptical audience.
Right. We're going to explore how they establish patient trust long before a consultation is ever even booked. And, while the data we are looking at focuses on regenerative medicine, the psychology here, it applies to literally any high-stakes, high-consideration decision you might research online.
Stem cell therapy really is the perfect pressure cooker to study this concept, though, because patients in this space, they are walking a very thin tightrope.
Yeah, what do you mean by tightrope?
Well, on one side, they're desperate for hope, right? They want relief for chronic pain, or they're desperately trying to avoid a major invasive surgery, like a full joint replacement.
Right, which nobody wants to go through.
Exactly. But then on the other side, they are highly cautious, and for very, very good reason.
I want to focus on that caution for a second.
Yeah.
Because this isn't just, normal consumer hesitation. It's not like trying to decide which brand of refrigerator to buy at the home improvement store.
No, the stakes are significantly higher.
Right. And the regulatory landscape here is intense. The FDA and the FTC have issued some very loud warnings about regenerative medicine.
Yeah, they've been very active in this space recently.
They're actively cracking down on clinics claiming that stem cells are a magic wand for everything from Alzheimer's to a sore thumb. They've made it extremely clear that most stem cell products actually require FDA approval before they can even be marketed in the U.S.
What's fascinating here is how those regulatory warnings completely altered the psychological state of the patient.
Oh, how so?
While they are entering their research phase already suspicious. They know there are bad actors out there making unproven treatment claims. They've probably read the warnings themselves.
But wait, let me push back on how a clinic is supposed to navigate that.
Right.
If I'm a patient and I've read these government warnings about unproven claims, doesn't that make the very act of marketing inherently suspicious?
That is the exact paradox of this whole industry.
Right, because if I see a clinic aggressively running ads or, pushing me to commit right then and there, my immediate thought is going to be, wait, are these the guys the FDA is warning me about?
Yes, and that is why traditional promotional marketing completely backfires in these high-stakes environments.
Because it just feels scammy.
Exactly. If a clinic comes out of the gate acting like a stereotypical salesperson, they trigger every single alarm bell you just mentioned. The patient is already suspicious, so the clinic cannot start by selling.
Right.
Education has to precede promotion. It's mandatory.
So how does that actually play out on the screen? Let's say I click on a clinic's website. The data from Socially Buzz strongly advises against leading with a giant Book Now or Schedule Today button.
Right. They say to remove it from that prime first-glance real estate.
But, a business needs to make money. Won't removing the clearest path to purchase just completely tank their revenue?
Well, think of a high-consideration website less like a retail storefront and more like an airlock on a spaceship.
Okay, an airlock. I'm listening.
If you just open the outer door and the inner door at the exact same time, the patient gets blown out into the vacuum of space. They bounce right off the website. You have to equalize the pressure first.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense. So they aren't ready to come inside yet.
Exactly. When a patient first arrives, they are purely in the information gathering phase. They want to know what stem cell therapy actually is, or if they're even a viable candidate.
They're basically just asking, Is this real and can it help me?
Right. So a book now button assumes a level of readiness that simply does not exist yet for that user.
It's almost like an aggressive demand for commitment when the person barely knows who you are, right? I imagine it threatens their autonomy as a researcher, like getting married versus a quick swipe on a dating app. You don't just click buy now on a new knee.
No, you definitely don't. The alternative is creating what we call a softer entry point. The strategy involves offering content that matches the patient's current cautious state of mind.
So what does that look like practically?
Instead of a big schedule surgery button, the first thing they should see is an offer for something like 5 questions to ask before considering stem cell therapy. Or maybe what patients should know before comparing clinics.
Oh, I love that. Because it fundamentally respects your intelligence as a consumer.
Yes, it changes the dynamic completely.
It's the clinic effectively saying, hey, we know you aren't ready to buy, and we are not going to pressure you. Here's the information you actually need to evaluate us and, honestly, to evaluate everyone else, too.
Exactly. You go from being a salesman to being a partner in their research. It leverages the psychological principle of incremental commitment.
Incremental commitment. So just taking baby steps.
Right. You aren't asking them to trust you with their body yet. You're just asking them to trust a helpful piece of information. And this keeps the patient on the website longer. They interact with the material. And those defensive barriers we talked about, they slowly begin to lower.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting for me. Because, education is great, but information without a human face is just an encyclopedia.
Very true.
I can read medical journals for hours, but I don't form a human bond with a block of text on a screen. If the pressure in the airlock is equalized, I eventually have to open the inner door and actually meet the crew, right?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this is where a lot of clinics fail. The clinical experts, the actual medical doctors who will be responsible for your care, they cannot be hidden behind glossy marketing copy or those generic stock photos of models in white coats.
Oh man, the stock photos are the worst. You instantly know it's not a real doctor at the clinic.
Exactly. People trust people, not faceless entities. And the medical field is already deeply intimidating because there is a massive knowledge gap between the physician and the patient.
So the blueprint we're looking at, it emphasizes creating specific meet-the-doctor content. But we aren't just talking of a sterile headshot with a massive list of medical degrees that no one outside of a hospital actually understands, are we?
No. Those static bios do very little to build actual trust. What reduces intimidation is seeing the doctor actually speak.
Like in a video.
Yes, simple, patient-friendly videos where the medical director just sits down and answers fundamental questions using plain, everyday language.
That makes sense. It's about approachability.
Right. When a patient can hear the tone of the doctor's voice, when they can see their body language and hear them validate common anxieties, it completely bridges that massive knowledge gap.
But I'm looking at the strategy here from Socially Buzz, and it doesn't just stop at the doctors. They suggest featuring the front desk staff, the nurses, the patient coordinators.
Yes, the whole team.
I have to be honest, though. If I'm spending thousands of dollars on a major medical procedure, does seeing a receptionist's face really change my mind? I mean, I want to know the surgeon is top tier.
Well, the surgeon's expertise is the logical requirement, absolutely. But the patient coordinator, they are the emotional gatekeeper.
The emotional gatekeeper. Okay, explain that.
Think about it. When you finally muster the courage to pick up the phone and call that clinic, who do you actually speak to first? You don't get the medical director on the line right away.
No, you get the front desk.
Exactly. And if you have already seen their face and heard their welcoming voice in a video on the website, that initial phone call becomes infinitely less terrifying. You are drastically reducing the friction of reaching out.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense, actually. So we've softened the entry with education, and we've put friendly human faces to the names. But I still see a massive hurdle here.
What's that?
Even with all of that, the actual medical process itself still feels like a giant black box to most people. Like, I might trust the doctor, but I don't trust the machine yet. I submit an intake form, and then what? Does my phone immediately start ringing? Do I need to dig up 5 years of MRI records by tomorrow morning?
That is a very real fear. Uncertainty is the absolute enemy of action. If a patient cannot clearly visualize the next 3 steps after they click submit, they simply won't click it. They will abandon the whole process.
How do you fix that?
The trust architecture demands that the clinic illuminates that black box. They have to lay out the consultation process step by step.
So literally spelling it out, like Step 1, we review your basic info. Step 2, we schedule a no-pressure conversation. Step
Mhm.
3, our provider reviews your health history.
Exactly. It completely removes the guesswork.
But what about the quiet anxieties? You know, the questions people are too embarrassed to ask on a first phone call, like, can
Right.
I actually afford this out of pocket? Or
Huh.
am I even a candidate? Or are my knees just too far gone for this?
If a clinic doesn't address those silent anxieties proactively, the patient will leave to find the answers elsewhere. And honestly, they'll probably stumble right back into that sea of misinformation we talked about earlier.
Right, back to the wild west of the internet.
Exactly. So the solution here is building a comprehensive library of doctor-led FAQs.
Let me stop you there for a second. Why does it have to be doctor-led? Can't the web developer just type up a standard FAQ page based on the clinic's brochure?
They could, but it wouldn't be nearly as effective. It all comes back to authority and, honestly, chemical reactions in the brain.
Chemical reactions.
Yeah, when a clinical authority answers an unasked question, especially a really difficult one, it chemically reduces cortisol, which is the stress hormone, in the patient's brain.
Oh, wow. So it literally physically calms them down.
Exactly. Addressing cost, eligibility, and even tackling those scary FDA oversight questions head on shows immense confidence. The FDA actually advises consumers to ask if products are FDA approved or part of a clinical trial.
Right, that's part of their official warnings.
And a responsible clinic doesn't hide from that. They build video content around it to help patients ask better questions.
That leads directly into another crucial element of this strategy, which is avoiding the overpromise. Trust takes months to build and about 3 seconds to destroy completely.
Oh, absolutely.
If a patient is already operating with a healthy dose of skepticism and they see a banner that says, cure arthritis guaranteed, they are going to bounce immediately.
Those types of claims aren't just trust killers. They are massive compliance red flags for the regulators. The language across the entire digital footprint has to shift from definitive medical outcomes to responsible, process-oriented language.
So instead of a billboard saying stem cells will eliminate your knee pain, the website should say something more like, if you are exploring options for joint discomfort, our team can evaluate your situation to see if non-surgical options make sense for you.
Exactly. That is a perfect example.
It doesn't write a check that the treatment might not be able to cash, but uh, how does that apply to patient testimonials? Because if a patient genuinely feels their knee was magically cured, why can't the clinic just blast that quote everywhere?
Patient testimonials are incredibly powerful, yes, but they are an absolute minefield in healthcare marketing. Even if the patient's knee feels completely perfect, a clinic cannot use a testimonial that implies a guaranteed medical outcome for the next person who walks in the door.
So you can't publish a quote saying, this treatment completely cured my torn meniscus and everyone should do it.
No, you definitely cannot do that.
Because then the clinic is essentially making a universal medical claim by using the patient as, like, a ventriloquist dummy.
Precisely. The focus of a highly effective, compliant testimonial should be on the patient experience itself.
Okay, so what does a compliant testimonial actually sound like then?
The quote should read something like, "The team took the time to explain the entire consultation process. They answered all my questions, and I felt incredibly informed before I made any decisions."
Ah, I see. That builds credibility without violating compliance or, setting an unrealistic medical expectation.
Exactly. It focuses on the care and the trust, not the specific biological outcome.
So what does this all mean when we zoom out? Yeah. It means radical transparency is actually the most potent form of marketing you can use. But practically speaking, how on earth does a single clinic deliver all of this?
That's a lot of work.
It's a ton of work. We are talking about educational guides, step-by-step process breakdowns, doctor-led video FAQs, and perfectly compliant testimonials. How do you present all of that without completely overwhelming someone the literal second they load the homepage?
That is the ultimate structural challenge here. It requires transforming a standard brochure-style website into a dedicated patient resource hub.
A resource hub.
Right. But the real engine of this trust architecture is what happens after that first visit. Most people are not going to book a major medical procedure on day one. They need time to think, talk to their spouse, maybe compare other doctors.
So the clinic needs a digital ecosystem to nurture the patient over time. And looking at the Socially Buzz blueprint, it outlines a very specific email nurture strategy.
Yes, the follow-up is key.
So let's say I download that guide we mentioned earlier, the 5 questions to ask. I don't just get a PDF in my inbox, do I? I get entered into a paced 5-part email sequence.
And the pacing is absolutely critical. If those 5 emails are just begging you to book an appointment every single day, the trust is broken immediately.
Right, it goes back to feeling scammy.
Instead, the sequence is purely educational. Email 1 might arrive detailing exactly what to expect during a typical consultation. Then a few days later, email 2 dives deeper into those crucial questions you should be asking any provider.
That's very supportive.
Very. Email 3 explains why physician credentials matter so much. Email 4 helps you prepare for your eventual appointment. And finally, email 5 is a very low-pressure invitation to just consult with the team.
It's essentially just holding their hand through the research phase.
Exactly.
But I have a major logistical question here. We are talking about highly specialized, incredibly busy medical professionals. Are we seriously expecting a surgeon to become a full-time YouTuber and copywriter to produce all these guides, videos, and emails?
Oh, definitely not.
Because that sounds completely unrealistic for a functioning clinic. They have patients to see.
It would be totally unrealistic, which is why the concept of content repurposing is the linchpin of the whole operation. The doctors do not need to spend hours every single week creating new content.
Okay, so what do they do?
They need to sit down once, hit record, and answer one complex question in a 5-minute video. That's it.
Okay, but how does one 5-minute video solve the problem of needing all this content?
Because of the cascade effect. That single 5-minute video goes on YouTube. The audio is stripped out and added to a resource page. Then, the most impactful 30-second clips from that video become social media reels or LinkedIn posts.
I see where this is going.
Right. And then the transcript of the video is rewritten into a blog article, which then fuels one of those nurture emails we just talked about. It also populates the text for the FAQ section on the site.
Wow, so one moment of expert effort cascades across the entire digital ecosystem.
Exactly. It creates this omnipresent feeling of authority without burning out the clinical staff.
That is incredibly efficient, and honestly, this is the exact value of an agency like Socially Buzz. They are the architects managing this entire ecosystem behind the scenes.
They do the heavy lifting, yeah.
They aren't just running flashy, annoying ad campaigns. They're building the intake funnels, they're managing the content cascade, and ensuring every single piece of messaging is clear, responsible, and compliant with all those FDA warnings.
They shift the entire paradigm of the business from generating short-term hype to generating consistent, reliable communication. Even the calls to action are recalibrated.
Right, instead of buy now.
Yeah, it shifts from get treated now to something softer, like not sure where to start, speak with our clinic team. It's a fundamental psychological shift from a hard close to an open, welcoming door.
It's brilliant because it makes taking that next step feel entirely safe for the patient.
Completely safe.
So to kind of bring this all together, in high-stakes environments, trust does not begin in the waiting room, and it certainly doesn't begin on the operating table. It begins online.
100%.
It is built layer by meticulous layer through upfront education, total process transparency, humanizing the experts, and setting highly responsible expectations.
It ultimately comes down to respecting the consumer's journey. When a business takes the time to anticipate your unspoken anxieties, answer your difficult questions, and guide you without applying pressure, they are proving their competence and their care long before you've spent a single dime.
And think about how broadly this applies to your own life. Next time you are researching a financial advisor to manage your life savings or, a general contractor to rip the roof off your house, these exact same principles apply.
They really do. The psychology is the exact same.
You are looking for those same signals of digital trust. Are they equalizing the pressure in the airlock, or are they trying to blow you out into space with a hard sell?
The mechanics of digital trust truly are universal. Whether the stakes are medical, financial, or related to your home, we are all just searching for proof that our safety is being taken seriously by the people we are evaluating.
Which leaves us with a pretty fascinating lens to look through moving forward. Next time you are researching a major service online, take a really close look at the architecture of their website. Are they aggressively trying to push you straight to the checkout line? Or are they treating you like a smart, capable researcher who deserves to be educated first?
It's a great question to ask yourself.
Because ultimately, what their marketing tells you right now is a direct preview of exactly how they will treat you once they actually have your money.